Welcome to the tutorial, everyone. If you're here to learn something, you're in the wrong place.
Welcome to
Or
the
are you?
tutorial where we don't do research anymore because I don't remember to ask what we're talking about until 1 a.m. the night before.
That's okay. I don't actually think you know that much about our topic today, so
No,
I'll
but I
be
could have
doing
researched
most of the
things like
talking.
I
Welcome
could
to
have
the
researched shit
tutorial
like
where I don't
when did this
sleep.
become big or whatever.
welcome to the tutorial. It's a podcast where one guy's in a chair, one guy doesn't do research, one guy doesn't sleep, and one guy is just an ethereal voice who can only type in the chat and can't actually speak.
I'm sorry, only one of us is in a chair.
Yeah. I
I
don't know what
guess
else
I'm
to say.
standing
I
up.
don't know what else to say about myself.
One of us has a beard.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It's kind of your thing, right?
But then Dave also has kind of a beard sometimes.
No, I usually shave off.
He's got like a.
I just keep my what do they call it? My Fu Manchu, I guess. That's not what it's called. My sideburns.
Oh, I should
Change the
change.
background to
Yeah,
something
I
more
should change
scene
this.
relevant.
There we go. That's better.
Let me get my blankie.
Let me get my blankie.
It's so
My
cool.
God, I can't believe you call it that.
That was a joke, dumb fuck.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. I forgot. I gotta full
'Cause you forget
screen
to
that
put-
bitch.
Yeah, you forgot to put the fucking.
There we go.
thing.
That's better.
There you go.
Yeah, so today we're talking about VR games.
Yay.
Because that's a fun topic that only me and Ringo know about.
Kind of.
Well, the ethereal voice also knows about it, but he's kind of only sort of
yeah,
here.
He knows
I'm
about
sure
PlayStation
Beef
VR,
will say
so.
some stuff, but seeing as how my recording setup doesn't allow me to read his messages, I'll have no idea what he's saying.
Don't be
He's saying
surprised
he
if
got
he.
sideburns.
He's saying he got sideburns.
He was talking about me, I think.
Oh,
Don't be surprised if he. What's it called? He doesn't input much this week. He's probably busy getting blood pulled out of his arm. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. This is gonna be interesting because at some point I'm gonna have to put stuff in the chat.
You don't got a second monitor for nothing, do you?
Yeah, but I can't pull Discord over there. It's at full screen right now.
Oh shit. Wow.
Yeah, I'll figure it out. Anyway,
Oh, you know
today
what? You have Discord on your phone.
I do. Yeah, I could go get that.
Get a terribly cursed this screen there, this screen
Super
this.
scuffed.
Also, chat is on my phone. Stupid scuffed.
Scuffed.
Hey man, we do what we got to do.
Oh, I'm at my brother's house and I don't have a second screen here, so I'll just have to read chat on my phone.
Wait, let me just.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, I'm totally just. I can make myself disappear.
Oh my god.
Nice as that is.
Did you figure out how to do color key?
No, I can. I just
No?
have. I have this thing. I have the laser.
I love
pointer.
how we said we were going to talk about VR
Oh.
games, and we have spent exactly 0 minutes talking about
Oh my
VR games.
I could just 100% disappear. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. So
This whole starting bit is gonna be cut out. Why don't we just do the intro again?
because we already did the
Probably.
intro and I can just cut all that out in. Anyway, yeah, so I may have done some research and written some things, and it's not like I wrote half this damn thing on the bus ride on the way home, so it's gonna be great.
It's gonna be fantastic. Don't even worry about it. Your mind's
So-
gonna be blown today.
Our minds are gonna be blown today. Yeah,
No, I meant
Sure.
the listeners.
sure, definitely.
I meant the listeners.
Definitely,
minds are gonna
sure,
be blown.
yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
sure,
mm,
yeah.
you can
Yeah.
stop.
So, mankind has always been fascinated with new
With
technology.
beans.
Also, beans. Beans is a new technology, the two cornerstones of our society. Yes.
Right. Anyway.
They're usually pretty creative about what the future's going to look like technology wise. Like if you
Yeah,
look
like-
up
There was going to be flying cars 20 years ago.
yeah, if you look
I
back,
got
2 years ago.
lots to say on this.
you can look back at like the 20s and 30s and see
What's up, Beef?
apparently
Just that I have thoughts to say on this.
You have thoughts to say on what?
on
The
like how
future of
far back
mankind.
mankind has looked on VR.
On VR, I was just going to talk about retrofuturism for a second.
Okay, go off then.
Go up.
I was gonna say, like, if you look
Love
back in
that.
the 20s and 30s, like, you could see plenty of art of where they were like, this is definitely what the future will look like with like flying
just
cars
like
and shit. My
fucking-
favorite one is the one where they're like, yes, people will ride bicycles on lakes suspended by balloons. I was just like, that is the craziest shit. But that's very much like the aesthetic of like the Fallout games and stuff is a lot of retro future.
Leonis, do you remember that old? I think it's called Metropolis. Old film.
That sounds
It's
vaguely
like a
familiar.
silent film. Yeah, like that's.
Oh yeah,
that's what
no,
people
yeah, we
used
learned
to
about
think.
that in film school.
Yeah, that's what people used to think the
Ah.
future would look like.
Mm-hmm.
George
Well,
Orwell's
no, I know there's a lot of
1984.
like, especially like if you go to like the 1950s, you have a chunk of like everyone thought that like our whole design aesthetic was gonna change. Like no more square Euclidean geometry, whatever. I'm tired.
Anometry.
No more
Anometry?
Euclidean.
This man's
No more
spitting fire.
Euclidean geometry. Like we're just gonna fucking make round houses and round buildings, and everything's gonna look like fucking bubbles and float.
The future is pods.
The future
Yeah,
is-
for real, for real. That was
As it turned out,
100%.
the future was
man.
AirPods.
AirPods.
As it turned
Yeah.
out, the future was pods. Tide
AirPods,
pods, in
which
fact.
nobody can seem to keep their fucking hands
no.
on.
Here's the thing. It was AirPods, Tide Pods, and Jewel Pods. So they
You also
weren't wrong.
forgot iPods shortly before that.
Oh
And-
yeah,
and-
iPods was
and-
like 10 years ago.
And the moving company Pods, which help you move your shit in a box.
Big metal box.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like a square.
Yeah, they give you
box?
like a big metal crate and you just put all your
Yeah.
shit in it and then they come move it
Not
from
a
place to place
not
for
a
you.
pod.
It is a pod. It's just a
That's
big metal
misleading.
pod.
But it's a square, not a round pod. It's
Well,
kind of misleading.
well, a jewel is a fucking rectangle, okay?
I guess
I mean,
that's
they can
fair.
be round.
Anyway.
So I think some of the earliest imaginations of VR is probably something like the holodeck from Star Trek.
Yeah, actually, I have like a script with stuff like that in it.
Okay, cool. Go off, guys.
As you can
Reading
see,
between the lines. Shut the fuck up, bro. I already have that on my fucking list.
Hey man, you're not letting me read
Beef is
my
over here like
script.
Beef is over here like I came to school too. I didn't read any of the material.
No, I actually have 3 different articles that I highly doubt you've covered about VR.
We'll see, because I wrote a lot. I wrote a lot.
Alright, well,
But here
we'll
we
get
go.
there.
Yeah. So, as Beef said, the holodeck is a good example of like early imaginations of VR. But I have a list of other like instances of VR in media. Some of which you'll see as like newer examples of that, like where they look more realistic to what VR actually looks like, and then some where it's like you can see they thought, oh, this might be VR, and it definitely wasn't.
I have one
So-
question and one question only.
What's that?
I also have a question.
Are you going to mention VR troopers?
Maybe.
Okay.
Uh, what was your question,
You
Beef?
have so I forget which movie it is, but in one of the James Bond movies, Moneypenny has this like headset that she puts on that actually looks a lot like a modern VR headset, or it was like a set of sunglasses with like a big computer attached to it or whatever. But she basically is in like VR when she's wearing it. Of course, she uses it to fantasize about Mr. Bond, but you know that's just kind of how those movies went.
Lessons.
I didn't have
Everybody's
that
got their
actually.
own-
What
Well,
I did
on that
have.
note, I did want to mention that the moment when VR took off, which was called, by the way, by several big content creators, was as soon as VR porn became a thing.
I mean, are you really surprised?
Bruh.
No, I'm
Look at all
not.
the money
No,
got
I'm
into
not.
it.
Once you
Listen.
can pornify something, the whole world will open up their eyes and listen.
Listen. It's immersive, okay?
You know what else is
The funny
immersive?
thing is, it's actually really not.
You know what else
but
is immersive?
but you can look around at the shitty set that they filmed it on. What's immersive, Ringo? Is it your dick?
No, it's fucking porcupines.
Okay,
I just
moving
feel like
on.
He says something and then he just like shuts up and doesn't do anything.
I'm
So-
sorry, I forgot what I was gonna say.
ADHD, baby.
And lack of sleep. So there's also that.
So some examples besides the holodeck include Sword Art Online and Dot Hack. They had VR
Well, I
headsets.
guess technically.
I was
Uh,
really thinking you weren't gonna go there. That doesn't count.
The
That's
Matrix.
anime.
It is
The
anime.
Matrix?
The Matrix.
I was gonna say the
The
Matrix.
Yeah, I was gonna
Matrix
bring
is a
up the
pretty
Matrix.
big one. That's a
I think
whole
in-
entire virtual reality.
I was gonna say, like, I think in
That's
the
the
East
simulation, yeah.
they were doing other stuff at the same time, like with talking about what they thought virtual reality would be. But in the West, the Matrix was our next big jump.
We also had
Uh,
Tron.
yeah.
Tron, yeah.
I don't know if I would call Tron virtual reality in the
Well,
same.
it's like
time.
cyberspace.
Tron is virtual reality in the sense of how people at the time imagined that would be, because it is
People
a
who
man going
made
into a
the movie.
computerized space.
Exactly.
But it's
Technically,
not.
a man
it's
being
not-
compressed into data and turned into a computer file.
Right, but they
going into
thought
the
like
computer.
this would probably be possible way back then.
Yeah, they figured that
Or at
that's
least
how. Because like
plausible.
there is in the movie there was a physical technology that is used and that they use before the master control program turns it on Flynn.
Mhm.
Yeah, they use it for like legitimate business and stuff.
They like turn an
They turn
apple into
physical
data
objects.
and then they
Yeah.
like unturn that. They turn the apple back into a physical object and it's like,
Bro,
whoa,
yeah.
that's cool proof.
Fucking compressed data compressed into matter.
Well,
right?
around the time that Tron came out,
Other way
was
around,
when they
Ringo.
learned-
Matter compressed into
yeah.
data.
Right.
was when they started figuring out that the concept, like on the scientific level, right about that time is when it came out that the concept of compressing a physical object into pure data was theoretically possible to do. Like you could scientifically like figure that out, but making something capable of actually doing that was at the time very not possible because the amount of energy necessary to pull that off is immense. So immense
Yeah.
we still can't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Like-
about to say it's not like we can do that now.
in a small kind of similar type of thing, like with the amount of energy required to do shit. If you look at like a modern graphics card, like for example a fucking 1650 versus an RX 570. The RX 570 is older, but it's fucking a lot more power hungry, but it's pretty close to the same performance. So to do the same shit, it was like twice as like half as power efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of been just technology in general has
Yeah.
become more energy efficient because we've not really advanced a whole lot in energy production. Like we're still using the same means
Even
of
though
producing electricity that we were 120 years ago.
even though we
Build a
could
lot more
even
solar panels.
beyond solar panels, there's graphene is a really good way to store and produce energy, but
My
nobody
understanding of graphene was that it's supposed to like replace steel, not coal.
We need to get on that steampunk wave.
also thorium is another good source of energy that we
Yeah,
are
I
just
don't know
fucking
why they don't
ignoring.
use thorium.
We're
I
just
don't know why they
ignoring
don't
it.
use
Nuclear,
thorium.
though, isn't it?
But
Thorium
no,
is
but
like
that's the thing,
90%
like
more efficient
thorium
than,
thorium
what's
is
it
like
called?
it's like plutonium 2, where it's like
Yeah.
it does like the exact same thing but with none of the radiation,
And it's
or like a
way more
fraction of the
efficient.
radiation, and it's way more efficient, but they
Like
just want
90%
to
more
the
efficient.
government just wants to ignore it.
Well, I know in the
It's not so
last
much that the government
month,
wants to
month
ignore
and a
it.
half or so, in the
I
last
feel
month,
like
month and a half or so, there was China has an artificial sun they turned on. I believe that it's powered by thorium, so it's not like nowhere on the planet.
I would
Who's
like
doing
to have one day.
You
I
get
would like to have a thorium-powered refrigerator.
nice.
it? It
I mean,
seems
Power
you
of
gotta
ice
understand
gods.
that a lot of like swapping between one technology and another
Yeah, it's not something that
gets
happens
hampered.
overnight.
Well, first of all, doing that physically will take time.
I mean, I
But
get that, but they're not
beyond
even
that, you also have to
trying is the
understand
thing.
you also have to understand that despite the technology existing to do all of this, you have a lot of people who are very rich and very powerful who are very dependent on very specific things to keep them rich and powerful, and they do not want the status quo to change because they don't want to stop being rich and powerful. And
Well, the other thing,
until they figure out, so it's the same thing basically like with electric cars. Why are electric cars becoming more popular now? Because one of the big rich powerful people found a way to make that how he stays rich and powerful. So now that that's an option people can use, it's something they're more willing to try. And for all of these things, this is what's going to have to happen. Like for thorium to be something considered okay by everybody, even if it's okay by the lower, I was going to say lower class, but like I guess that's pretty much what it is, by us common people. Even if we're
yeah,
okay with it and the media people are okay with it, until the big corporate heads are like, all right, we figured out a way to exploit this for the maximum amount of profit we can
Yeah,
get out of
see,
it.
and
They're not,
and
and that maximum profit exceeds the maximum profit I can get doing other things.
it's
They're
gonna
not going to
be
make the effort.
it's gonna be a
well,
case where like some independent person starts like develops some way to use thorium as a power source and is like, yeah, this is really cool, and then some big old rich corporation comes in and swoops them up and buys them out, and now suddenly the rich can use it to stay rich, and that's how that's gonna work.
either corporate
That's basically how it always
side.
works. That's the thing
So,
that keeps us from technologically advancing largely.
well, also part of that is like people talk about, oh, well, we should just change over to electric. Well, I mean, it's not that easy because how do
Well,
you make
changing over to
electricity?
electric
Primarily,
isn't
electricity
just
is
gonna
created
happen.
through electromagnetism is primarily how electronic energy is produced. Well, how do you produce electromagnetic energy? You have to have a turbine. Well, how do you spin a turbine? Usually steam. Well, how do you get steam? You boil water. How are you boiling water? Probably coal.
Hmm.
So the technologies are just currently inexorably linked. So it's not even so much that as it is just like that the technology to separate those two does not yet exist because you
That's why we
can't use
have
electricity to generate electricity.
batteries.
Well,
Well, yeah,
actually, the power to
Batteries.
separate that issue does exist. It's called nuclear power, and nobody wants to use that
it's a
because
little more
they can't.
complicated than that.
But
Dog,
we could use
thorium.
thorium. Anyway,
Yeah.
this is way off topic. We could
Yeah,
you could talk about
this
this
is
on its
not
own.
VR. This is energy production. It's a
Uh,
different
Uh,
conversation,
to
and
bring
it
this back to
seems like it's
VR,
a
it's
little
also
yeah,
bit
very
above
similar. If you look at like
where
VR
you
as it is
guys
now,
are at.
technologically wise, obviously we're not like at the place because I feel like where we want to be
we want a
is
holodeck,
basically the
obviously.
Matrix.
I just
Well,
want
see,
I
I'd
actually,
be
thorium-powered
okay.
um,
Here's
gorilla tag.
I
we
actually,
fucking get
as
off the
I've
thorium
seen
thing.
VR evolve just in my lifespan, I don't really want a holodeck. I would rather have something like The Matrix, except less permanent. I just don't
See,
want to just
here's
store
so
it out
here's
online.
my issue.
I'm
The
done.
idea with if I can bring this up, the idea with what I'm going to call plug-in full dive, I think it's called full dive or full dive immersion technology versus holodeck technology. With a holodeck, you have a space that can create a hard light hologram of what you want to do. And I think that that is something I'd rather have because I don't have to inherently change anything about my body or risk anything for the most part with my body to do that. But once you start talking about full dive immersion technology, we're talking about like the Matrix. They literally plugged your brain into a fucking wire.
Plugged in a wire into your
If you
ass.
look at things like what SAO and other anime that talk about virtual reality, like Dot Hack, you put on like a headset or some shit. And of course, I think SAO brought up a really good point about that. Like, what's stopping some motherfucker from using that technology to just dick over everybody who puts it on. Now in that case, the thing was like, oh, you're going to play my game or I'm going to kill you. But at the end of the day, my concern is hackers. Like, how long before that technology is generally protected enough that hackers can't just ruin everyone's shit constantly? Because at that point, you're talking about putting your brain in a position to get hacked, and I don't like that idea.
Then alternatively you have the Western version of that with Ready Player One, which is arguably as bad or worse.
Well, I mean,
I feel like
I can't
The
really say much about
Matrix-
that because I haven't seen it.
I feel like
Well, it's
the
also a book
closest
too, if you
thing.
don't want to watch a
the
stupid
cl-
movie.
I feel like the closest thing that is currently being developed, to my knowledge, the closest thing to the Matrix is fucking Mark Zuckerberg's fucking metaverse.
Shut the fuck up. That's not even. That's some
It's
fucking
gonna
bullshit.
be. I promise you, it's gonna be shit. I promise you, it's gonna be dog shit.
I promise you, it is shit.
Well,
is
first of
never
all,
going to
it
be-
already is around.
It's never
like,
gonna
it's
be
there already.
advanced enough to be fucking like useful.
It's currently a joke.
No, yeah, because nobody wants to have Lord Zuck as their god in this, sir.
But yeah, to bring it back around to my point from earlier, just a couple of other examples I have of like VR stuff. Code Lyoko was one. Surrogates, where they literally this one actually I think would be really cool to have, but literally like they plug into a pod and then they just pilot a robot, and that's how they go about like going out to do their daily work and stuff. It's just through a robot
well,
that they
You would
pilot.
like that.
I
You
would-
would like that.
I
I
would.
can stay home.
I
and
could stay
not-
home,
I can
exactly.
be anonymous. I can make a
Exactly.
robot that looks nothing like me
Uh-huh.
and stay home and be anonymous.
Well,
Yep.
still, if you want to go that route, then I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't consider it like VR in that same sense. But the movie Avatar, James Cameron's
That
Oh
was
my
also
God, I was
also on
just
my list.
thinking of that.
James Cameron's
then there's-
Avatar.
I was just thinking
And then
that.
there's
Okay,
the
so
Flash
to say
Doctor
something, the movie Avatar is what it is, but the technology to plug yourself into another entity like that is very cool. Like that idea.
Yeah, James Cameron's
again-
Avatar meme.
Again, I'm not super comfortable with that. I'm way more comfortable with the surrogate idea where I'm in a pod and my body's not necessarily physically plugged into it. I'm just piloting a thing.
But guess what, Dave? Guess who the
Yeah,
bad
that's-
guy of that movie is?
Who?
Corporate
It's
America.
Energy Corporation.
It's hackers.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Corporate America.
I also had VR Troopers on my list.
Did you really?
And I really did, yeah.
What is
and,
VR
I don't know what
Troopers?
VR
That sounds
VR
awful.
Troopers.
I don't know
Okay,
what
all
VR
right. Let me
Troopers
describe
is.
VR Troopers to you real quick. It's Power Rangers in VR.
That's awesome.
It is made by
Alright.
it is
90s
made
Power Rangers.
it is made by
That
Saban,
sounds awesome.
the same guys who make the original Power Rangers. And it's
Their
just
version
it's just a
of
bunch
the
of kids
guy-
who plug into a VR, and they're basically Power Rangers when they're in the virtual world.
Their
Oh,
version
so
of the
it's
guy
like,
that tells me what to do is
God,
the
what was it
person who's
called?
played one role.
Also,
and it was that
also
guy.
made by the guys who made Power Rangers. What the fuck is it called? Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad.
I don't know what that is.
Beetleborgs?
Look it up, too, it's about
Beetleborgs.
the same time.
Beetleborgs VR? I don't think Beetleborgs VR, was it?
No.
No.
But
Um,
he said it was something else that was made by them. I was
the
like,
last thing on my list, of course, is Ready Player One, because that's like the most current big media VR thing
is
in
it?
terms of not actually gaming, but like
Yeah, I mean, as far as like movie kind
yeah,
of
like
way,
movie,
like,
TV
semi, like, the
stuff.
Matrix.
Yeah.
As in the term or in terms of like theoretical VR.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
specifically
that's-
in entertainment media.
That's all like examples in the media of what VR could be like or might be like.
Wow, VR actually VR chat.
Yeah, we are actually VR chat. It's a
Jeez,
whole
the
lot
word on
of
that.
I know the we.
Man, VR chat. I've never been on VR chat because I
Man,
don't
every
do.
time I go on VR
I
chat-
like,
I have true story. I
when
have
I
it. I have
see-
it downloaded on my Quest 2, and I've gone in there. I've picked an avatar and everything, and I'm too scared to join a world because I'm just like, there's gonna be a whole lot of fuckery in there, and I don't know if I'm prepared.
See, the
So
problem
I
is like
have played
the
VR
problem
chat.
is like what VR chat is that they've created a virtually physical space that is just the internet
Yes.
condensed
Yeah,
to a
exactly.
physicality.
This is why I'm
And
Yeah,
scared to
so
go in there.
here's the thing, because I have played VR and I have, I don't know, probably close to 200 hours of VR at this point, or VR chat at this point. It is exactly what David just described, but the problem is you have this massive like rubber band whiplash between people who just get on to shitpost because they have like low social skills and it's a low risk environment because you can just take the headset off and just not be there anymore. You don't have to deal with the social consequences of being a dick in public. Or alternatively, it's this weird sort of like new telling of when mankind first started sitting around a campfire and telling stories to each other. That's like a weird new version of that. Because that's most of what my experience with it has been. It's just been like finding people who are chill, who are not like on fucking cocaine or whatever, or acting like it. And it's just
Heroin.
like just hanging out and like telling life stories, because it's like I can meet somebody who in real life I would never meet because they live 4,000 miles away and I'm never going to live there, and just share like, hey, here's this funny thing that happened to me, or here's a funny thing that happened to a friend of mine, or here's this tricky situation, or everything. And it's just a new way. It's like the next evolutionary step of um, of a forum, but if there's no like it's kind of dictated by the world you go in. It's kind of the same way as like a forum, but it's it's like the next evolutionary step of the forum. That's really all it comes down
yeah,
to.
yeah, there's that, and then and much like the real internet, some forums are cool places to hang out and do stuff, and he's gone.
And we've
Um,
lost
and
beef.
and some places are just filled with people whose sole purpose for being there is just to
Shit post.
like be absolutely every horrible thing they can't be in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
which
like
is just sort of a fun side effect of the internet in general. But yeah, in VR chat it becomes much more obnoxious because it's like, there in front of you. There was this one
I just
guy
I'm gonna
in
get
one of
us in
the
trouble probably by saying
instances.
this, but
One
I
one
was
of
just
the
gonna say
instances.
you have like the Greek forum type worlds where it's like oh, we're all here together and we're talking and we're having a good time, we're learning about the world and we're learning about each other, and then you have fucking swagger souls.
That's the. That's really the one that you went to. That's
I
the
just
one you want to
remember
choose.
like I think a year and a half ago, Swagger Souls did like a VR chat series, and like he is the epitome in that series of everything I hate about about the idea of going into VR chat and seeing the internet condensed to a physical structure. Is just like he just go do shit. And some of it's funny, some of it's great, it's comedy and it's great content. But other stuff is just like, yeah, you're honestly doing this just because nobody
Yeah,
knows who you are
it's
and you know
just
you can get
like,
away with it.
but it's also just like the equivalent of running into rampant YouTubers on the street who are like, "Excuse me, can I ask you a question about whatever BS they're trying to make a video about right now?"
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
but
true.
the difference is there's less
Although that never
consequences
happens
with
where we
that.
live.
Well, yeah,
Thank
because
God.
nobody wants to be out in 110-degree weather being like, excuse me, do you have a moment
No,
to talk about some random bullshit? Be like, nah,
no.
fool, I gotta get indoors.
Yeah, bruh, I'm just trying to get this DoorDash.
Deborah, where my pancakes at?
Deborah, Deborah, where are my pancakes
The
at?
tutorial lore goes deep.
The tutorial lore, Deborah,
Deborah.
Deborah.
So now I've kind of said my take for sure now, I
So,
think. I don't think there's much
um,
more I can say. So can we have the
so,
people who actually need to talk about VR because they experienced it talk now?
so I
Well, I
I
got
got
like 30%
curious.
battery, so I'd like to talk to him if someone dies.
That's
Oh,
fine.
okay, cool. Let's have
Uh,
beef talk then.
okay.
Okay, cool. So, um, some of the things that I looked up, because I figured it probably was a different angle. I was like, hey, what like more altruistic uses has VR had? And I came up with stuff like what importance virtual reality holds in the modern world. And it's to kind of briefly cover it. It's like medical VR, where you can see like the different machines take the different scans of the human body, and then the doctor can step into a VR space and sort of look about the patient and be like, oh, if it's not right over here, let's go take a look at that and be able to look at it in three-dimensional space.
Yeah, there's actually been ads on YouTube for like a virtual hospital like that a lot.
Yeah, and so
I'm not
there's that.
sure.
There's also VR has been used to treat PTSD and going through really different various different social interactions and stuff like that. And then it's also at this point pretty commonly used as an educational technology.
Oh, especially
Yeah,
these
the one
days
of
with
those
the whole
that
lockdown and
yeah.
everything.
The thing that I found the most interesting was that the medical use of VR actually, because it wasn't something. I mean, I suspected the other ones because it's like, of course, but the medical VR, like that didn't occur to me. So that was pretty interesting to read about. And I can put the article in the link for you guys if you want to read it independently, or if you want to like, I don't
By
know
medical
how to
VR, you're
publish.
talking about like people who can't get up and walk around being able to be ambulatory in a virtual
No,
space, right?
no, no. I'm talking about a doctor using VR as a way to view readouts of this. Like, you have a CAT scan, you have an X-ray, you have these different medical scanning technologies that then together create a three-dimensional space that the doctor can be like, here is a digital copy of my patient's body, and I can see the different layers of it, and I can look around it without having to
Oh
cut him
yeah, so
open
that's
and
like
damp apart his blood.
it's basically the same as like Tony Stark's thing from Marvel, where he's building like suits and stuff, but inside a
Yeah,
virtual space.
Yeah, and not to again not to
yeah,
pull too
very
much
much like
from media, but the movie's A Lawnmower Man is like that's the whole premise of it is a doctor helping a mentally disabled patient through the use of a VR thing, basically.
It's funny that I have no idea what the fuck movie you're talking about.
Well,
Yeah, I've never
look
heard
up
of Lawnmower Man.
look up Lawnmower Man at some
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, anyway, so use of VR as a medical technology, specifically on the side of doctors, like on the side of patients, the VR is widely available to everybody, as used by doctors, was probably the most fascinating use of VR for me in my research.
Awkward silence.
I mean, he said he found 3 things, and I was waiting for the other 2.
Well, he's
Well,
definitely
no, I had three articles.
You had 3
from which I
articles about
gleaned information.
medical VR use.
Yes, because I specifically
Okay.
believe that that was an angle that you did not think of.
I actually did a little bit, but we can get there.
Okay.
Okay, so just reading about like all the examples of media VR and like experiencing it for myself, I got kind of curious about the history of it, like where it came from and stuff. So I did some research into the historical origins of VR, and I have a little bit of data here on my Google document sheet.
That's lovely. Can you get to the point?
So true story. The history of VR starts all the way back in 1838.
Wait,
1830,
fucking
before
how?
the computer was even a thing.
But before we had computer.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like somebody writing about it as an idea?
There was
I
a
suppose
English scientist named Charles Wheatstone who
Wheatstone.
discovered stereopsis, which is basically just it's just the study of how like our eyes perceive things, and the essential part of that, how that relates to VR, is that he discovered that if you take 2 static images and you put them in front of your eyes, like one over each eye, and you put them relatively close, the brain like fills in the gaps, and it becomes a single. It becomes like a single 3D image with like it gives you like a false depth perception and stuff.
Wait, is that how VR headsets work?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that's how.
Yeah, because if you download like a VR video, or if you watch a VR video,
it's like
it's like 2 screens next to each other. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know that fucking, I don't know if they still do it, but Google Cardboard was like that. I don't know if they,
Google
because it was
Cardboard.
You don't know what that is?
That was
that's
a name they came up with for a product.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that was. It was the name that they
that's
came
their
up with.
make it yourself VR trashy
And then
VR
you-
headset.
And then you have
Yeah,
like
that was like
your
the
phone to
post.
do
Oh
the.
my
Yeah,
That
and
God.
was
it's
the
literally
next
just
step
a slide your
after
phone into
Google
the
Glass, I
slot in
think.
front of you, and your phone is the
Yeah.
viewing
Oh,
port.
dude,
It's like a
dude.
Yeah.
VR map thing.
That was
That
like the
sounds like
next
a
step after
garbage
Google Glass,
VR
I think.
thing.
It's a VR map.
Well, I mean, it's Google, so
Google will come up again in this in this
Yeah,
timeline.
they always do.
But yeah, no, he created
Glass.
a device called a stereoscope, which this is where I'm going to get fancy with my preloaded images, but he created a device called a stereoscope, which is basically, I'll put an image in so you can see it, but it's basically like those
Oh, is it
old, like when we were kids,
like
we had those things
you had like your
where,
binocular looking things with like the disc and the different pictures on it, and you
yes,
look at
yes,
it and you're like,
exactly.
whoa, so cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't actually bring those up because I was like, is that VR? Does that count as
What, like
VR?
the
I don't
little
know.
camera thing where
Yeah,
you push the button and it
Functions
goes to the
I'm
back of
putting
your
it
head?
similarly,
I'm putting it in the
Yeah.
chat right now.
So essentially, what it is, it's like it's not VR inherently, but it functions on a similar base concept for the technology
Right,
that VR
exactly. And
uses.
it was sort of a building
It's the
block for it.
prehistoric ancestor too.
Yeah.
And there's some pictures of stereoscopes there for you in the chat. I'm gonna be I warn you now, I'm gonna be putting a lot of stuff in there. But the audience will also be able to see it because I've got it loaded into Streamlabs, so they'll be able to have a look at what I'm talking about as well. Yeah, so that was like step one. And then the next stop on the timeline is 1929 with the invention of the Link Trainer, which was a flight simulator that basically they put you in like a little blue box, like a little simulated space that like they had motors and stuff to simulate, basically to simulate flying. Let me pull up the picture here. There we go.
Simulate flying.
Yeah, so like it could here I'll show you the pictures so you kind of get an idea, but it could like lean and stuff.
Oh,
You see what I
okay.
mean?
So that's kind of like
So
what they
you would
build
sit,
for like movies and TV shows now.
yeah, you would sit in like a little false cockpit, but it would also like move around with you if you moved the flight instruments and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen like movies that like zoos and stuff where it does stuff like that, or like a virtual roller coaster like does stuff like that.
So
Hey,
that question. Go
I
ahead.
have a question first. Is that sort of like the thing you told me about before when Mech came out and you got to sit in like a cockpit? Did that thing move or was it?
Yeah,
I was gonna
very
ask about the
similar.
mech pods
It's
too.
very similar to that. The mech pod just basically had a vibrating chair, so like if you were
Yeah.
the missile and then you drop to the ground from
but
your jet.
I was gonna ask, does
It
that
wasn't. It
count
didn't have
as a
quite the
form of
range
virtual
of motion.
reality?
yeah, I
would
would
say
say
yes.
I would
It,
say
it
yes, yeah.
is. It's a simulated reality, which I would say would then count as a virtual reality. It's not. It's not like
Because like
it's a larger, wider device because it's
you have
inside
you
of a
basically just have
space,
like a big
and
screen.
there's a
The idea is that
simulated
you sit in
space
here and you've
around
got
it.
controls around you, like you're in an actual mech vehicle,
Mhm.
or
Right.
they make things up however they want it to be, and you move stuff around. So you're not like it's not virtual reality from the sense of like going into a computer program, but
hmm
it's more
But
like
it's
the
virtual
surrogate
reality
If
in the sense
you're
of like
if you're not
your brain is
comfortable
tricked into
with
thinking that looking out of these windows, that is what is outside of those windows. The windows are the
exactly.
screen.
If you're not comfortable with calling it fully VR, you can at least call it VR adjacent or
Yeah,
VR
I would
relative.
call it.
It definitely
It's a
is.
VR
simulated VR
adjacent
adjacent.
or
It's proto VR.
Yeah.
perhaps would it probably wouldn't count as augmented reality, would it?
absolutely would
Uh,
I mean,
count.
n-
that's not exactly
not
no, because
really.
it's
No,
no,
AR and
because
VR
it's
are
not
different.
augmenting reality. Yeah,
Okay,
augmented
so what's the
reality
difference
is like
between?
a
There's a good question. What is the difference then between AR and VR?
so
So
Because I
AR
feel like
so
hold on,
AR is
because I feel like they're
augmented
very sim.
reality.
Can I finish
Hang
my
on, if
statement,
you'll
please, really
shut
quick?
up for a second, I
No,
can
because you
actually answer
interrupted
the
him.
question.
So no, because you interrupted him. He wasn't done.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, how do we? I was gonna say where do we draw that line? Because I feel like there
So
definitely
you're
is a
just
difference
asking the
between the
question a different
two.
way.
But what I get from augmented reality is the sense that
You
like
didn't
it
finish
takes what's
the
already there and adds something to it.
That's exactly what
And
it is.
virtual reality is taking you from this reality and putting you into a essentially a quote unquote non-existent imaginary one.
Well, yeah, there you go. You basically
Yeah.
just drew the line.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you just like, why are you even asking the question? You have a perfect
So
understanding of it.
AR is like
Augmented
how
reality.
AR is like how in Pokemon Go, where you can push that fun little button and you can turn
Yeah.
on your camera and see Pokemons.
And it like
VR is
superimposes digital experience over the top of the camera, showing what is actually there. Whereas VR is superimposing an entirely new space on top of your vision.
Okay, so the confusion that comes with me with that is in the form of ARGs, which I always thought was augmented reality games.
no, that's alternate reality game.
Oh, well, that's a fundamental misunderstanding on my part.
Yeah. That's a whole other topic I could get into. That's
We
an
can talk about
entire
ARGs.
yeah,
in that
that's an
case,
entire
in an
other
entirely
box of
different
fun
thing.
that I believe me, I love that box of fun, but that's
Oh,
not
ARGs
at
are
all
great. But,
that's not at all
moving
relative to
on.
this in any way.
Man, don't you just love conversations about theoretical science?
Yeah, so anyway, moving on with my timeline of VR.
Yeah, I very much do.
Yeah, where was I at here? Yeah, so then we have in 1935 an author by the name of Stanley Weinbaum wrote a short story called Pygmalion Spectacles, which essentially described
I read that.
a VR device very similar to what we have today. He wrote in like the set of glasses that basically lets you see, hear, and interact with moving pictures. Is what he wrote into his short story. And the way that it's described is it's like very similar to the stuff that we have today. So a lot of people prescribe that to like they're like, oh yeah, he was a visionary, like he was smart before his time or whatever. But that's just sort of a stop along our journey here. It's very interesting to see that someone else thought of it way back then. But then in 1956, a cinematographer named Morton Heilig or Halig or something like that. I'm probably really mispronouncing it.
Morton something.
He developed a device called Sensorama. This thing was wild, man. It's like a little
This thing was
booth.
also important to the history of film.
He probably was. I don't know that much about the history of film, but I know Dave does. Basically,
I don't actually recall a conversation about Sensorama. This is new information to me. If they mentioned it, I either wasn't in class that day or I just
I'm putting a picture up here where you can see. Let me grab these real quick. Basically, the Sensorama was like this. These are some pictures of it.
Okay,
It
so
was
I do
this.
recall talking about a device like that,
It was
but I
this
do
little
not recall
booth.
the term Sensorama coming up.
It's basically a little booth where like you would sit in there and watch a movie, and it would simulate stuff by like the chair vibrated, and then they had like fans and shit in the room to simulate wind. Uh, they had a little smell-o-vision type thing in there where they like put
Oh
smells in
God.
there. Yeah.
There's a reason that particular side of the technology has been abandoned.
Yeah. It was an idea. It was
Well, I
pretty
mean, think
cool.
about it. Smell-o-vision was a thing that was as recent as like
Yeah.
just this year they shut down Shrek 4D, which was I don't want to say this year, I mean literally earlier January. They shut down Shrek 4D, which was smell-o-vision.
Yeah.
Really?
Mhm.
Yep.
It was a 3D movie where they sprayed fragrances in your face.
Yeah, probably fart
If
gas.
you want to call ogre farts fragrant, sure.
Yeah. But
It's
yeah,
just not
no.
a positive fragrance.
That was a whole thing that they made, and it was completely wild and wacky. Then it was not also very popular. So um Heilig did not give up, and in 1960 he developed a device called the Telesphere mask, which had it's like a head mounted display that basically this is the first time we'll see a head-mounted display, I think, in VR history. But basically, is a thing that sat on your face and it let you shut the
Go
fuck
ahead,
up,
Zoomer,
Ringo.
calm down.
It basically let you, and I don't think I have a picture of this one, but it let you watch movies in 3D wide vision and with stereo sound. So it was like a very, very early prototype of a VR headset, but it didn't have any like head tracking or motion tracking or anything. It's just you were watching a movie on your face, more or less. In 1961, two Philco engineers named Komu and Brian invented Headsight, which was a video screen for each eye with a magnetic motion tracking system, and it was developed for the military, basically to allow them to remotely view dangerous situations.
That would be the other driving force of technology is military.
Yes, the military is another big driving force of technology.
Yeah, because it's like, they got all the money.
They do got that money. They really do. And then we come to 1960. Or 1965. 1965, the first big push or cornerstone or building block or whatever you want to call it of VR. A computer scientist man named Ivan Sutherland, he wrote this document where he proposed a concept called the ultimate display, which, in his words, would include a virtual world viewed through a head-mounted display, the ability to touch and interact with objects in the world, and for a computer to run the world in real time, which sounds real familiar to what we have today.
Yeah, it also sounds like he was imagining a very Matrixy version of.
That's probably more
our
what
version
he
of
was imagining,
touching
because
things in VR is still computerized. We're not actually able to physically interact, but yeah, he's probably imagining something akin to the Matrix or a full dive experience.
Because there's a quote here from his document that says, the ultimate display. The ultimate display, of course, would be a room within which the computer can control the existence of matter. A chair displayed in such a room would be good enough to sit in. Handcuffs displayed in such a room would be confining, and a bullet displayed in such a room would be fatal. With appropriate programming, such a display could literally be the wonderland into which Alice walked.
That sounds more like the holodeck, actually.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So that's a holodeck then.
Very holodecky. But yeah, that was the first big, like.
In fact, that might actually be where Gene
Roddenberry.
Yeah, Gene Roddenberry got it from.
It could be. I mean, the 60s was a big sci-fi era, so who knows? But then we jumped to 1966, a year later, where a military engineer named Thomas Furness, not spelled like an actual furnace, but more like furnace. He's an important name. He created a flight simulator for the Air Force, which isn't all that much, but the reason I bring this up is because Furness is a sort of a big name in VR history later on, apart from this. But he laid some groundwork for like VR applications and stuff. 1968, our old friend Ivan Sutherland again, along with his student of his named Bob Sproul, they create a device. This is one of my favorite ones that I found. It's called the Sword of Damocles, which is a head-mounted VR display, which for the first time was actually connected to a computer and not a camera. They all have been hooked to a camera previously. But it was very bulky and it was suspended from the ceiling.
Oh, it's the Sword of Damocles.
Let me show you.
This cool name of an ancient weapon. I'm gonna put it on my fucking.
Let me show you. Let me show you a picture.
Glasses.
Let me show you a picture of the Sword of Damocles here. This is one of the most outlandish, ridiculous things I saw, and it's just kind of amazing that this actually happened.
That looks like the headset they use for like the beachhead games at like arcades.
Yeah, kind of a little bit. but I think the fact that it's hanging from the ceiling is what got them to call it the Sword of Damocles or something like that when I was reading about it. But it is kind of really goofy. Also, I think we probably lost Ringo.
Yeah,
He gone.
I think Ringo's not here, or he can't hear us because he ain't talking.
His internet up there in Illinois.
Yeah.
From something. I too have to jump off the call because I'm about to get unplugged and I'll have to leave.
That's fine.
Give me a couple.
Okay, no problem.
Hmm.
I guess that just leaves you and me to discuss the ramifications
Well,
of VR.
I'm hearing a little bit of Ringo.
No, I'm here. I just don't have a whole lot to input. I mean, I can
think
talk
he-
about
I bet
Vader
he-
Immortal.
Bet he fell asleep.
No, I didn't fall asleep.
Uh,
The only really experience that I have with VR is just VR gaming, and I don't know if you wanted to talk about that at a different time.
We'll get to that. It's all
that's what I
in
thought.
here.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So,
I mean, right now, to be fair, right now, VR, when it's in the spotlight, it mainly is the gaming spotlight.
It's true.
But I feel like there are like way more applications. There's a subplot in SAO that most people forget exists because it started in the second season that everyone hates. But the guy who was keeping people locked in VR past the end of Aincrad was doing it because he was trying to find a way to use virtual technology to train and brainwash soldiers.
I mean, that tracks, yeah.
sounds like some anime bullshit.
But
Sounds like some government bullshit.
The main story was about how he was trying to force his fiance to love him back, and then her
Oh, God.
boyfriend came to save her and whatever.
Oh, God.
So that got overshadowed by that bullshit. So, but he had like 500 people he kept in there. And they just kind of like throw it away as a line halfway through. Oh yeah, he's doing experiments to brainwash people and turn them into the ultimate soldiers or whatever. And then like never comes up again. I'm like, I'm sorry, that sounds like some world-changing shit. Why aren't we talking about that?
Because it's not as entertaining.
I don't know. I never was able to get into Sword Art Online. It was one of those ones that I thought was just too weird.
I think that the experience was kind of spoiled for me because I had watched Dot Hack first, and then once you've watched Dot Hack, SAO is like just garbage. In comparison, it's really shitty. So back on my virtual reality train, we have 1969.
Nice.
A computer artist named Myron Kruger developed a set of virtual environments that responded to people who were in the virtual environments, which was, to my understanding, more of like a externally displayed virtual environment. 1972, General Electrics. Bet you didn't think that name was going to come up.
No, I absolutely expected that name to come up.
General Electrics creates a flight simulator that features 3 screens that wrap around the user for a full 180-degree experience.
See, because I was gonna say, I think probably the earliest version of VR that I could think of, which started like back in the 60s to the 80s, somewhere in there, was flight simulators.
Oh yeah, that's
when
a
you
huge thing in
built
this
a-
whole timeline. Is a lot of flight simulators.
Yeah, because I feel like that was probably, for a minute, that was what was driving the concepts of
Because of course, if you can
Sounds-
virtually train a pilot without the risk of them having some sort of
exactly.
mishap in a plane and dying.
Yeah, so you don't have to be 4,000 feet in the air. You can successfully train a
You also
pilot
don't have to.
how to deal with a tailspin without actually being in the excessively deadly encounter that is a tailspin.
Yeah,
And at the same time, you don't have to risk your $50 million airplane.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then there's that.
that's why a whole lot of this was pushed by flight simulators because it's
Mhm.
just better for them. So the next step is Kruger is back in 1972 still with a project called Video Place, which uses a mix of CG, projector screens, cameras, projections, and lights to display a virtual environment. And this one, I have a sort of blueprint picture of this Video Place, and it's a little bit confusing to see. Like, here, let me just let me just throw this in here so you can see it. This was the proposed idea. So like it would like track using like the lights and shadows, it would like
Okay.
track your movement and then display it on this screen. And then
What?
yeah, it's weird, right?
What is this I'm looking at
That's the blueprint for video place.
for video place?
Yeah, that's the thing I just talked about.
That's an earlier. That's an
Yeah.
that's the GE thing.
No, that's this is Kruger again.
Kruger,
Yeah.
I did not expect to come up on this list.
But yeah, no, it was sort of a weird concept. I remember running into something like that in the Science Museum. It was pretty cool. 1977, MIT, baby. They create the Aspen movie map, which allows people to virtually wander around Aspen, Colorado. And the data for this was gathered by, this is going to sound really familiar, a vehicle driving around Aspen, Colorado with a camera on the top taking pictures. I bet that sounds like something we all know.
Full map.
It's hella proto Google Maps, and it was only used for Aspen, Colorado. But it was a step forward in VR, and that's about all that I have to say about that one. 1979, the McDonnell Douglas Corporation develops the Vital helmet, which is used by the military. It featured a head tracker that allowed the pilot basically to use their eyes to follow computer-generated images. So it had like very basic eye tracking. That was sort of where that came in. I don't think I have a picture of Vital on here. No. I have some pictures. I don't have all pictures.
I want to say that that's the same device that they use to prove that when a man is in a room where a party's going on and he is casually looking around at people, he tends to look at women's breasts more than their face.
The booba
I believe that was that device. Yeah.
Also, one of the best.
I believe that was that device.
One of the best Twitch clips of all time, by the way.
Yeah. Damn it!
We will not look at one single boob in this video. Immediately does it right away. Less than a second. That's a great clip. Yeah.
Damn it!
The next step forward is in 1980. Stereo vision goggles are invented, or as we call them these days, 3D glasses.
Hold on. I actually had to take my headset off for a minute to deal with something, and I put it back on to, that was a great clip, and everyone laughing. What the fuck did I miss?
Have you ever seen the Twitch clip of what's his name? Venetian or Greek god or something like that.
For National Women's Day, I believe, he does
this
stream
whole
where he was like,
thing.
We're gonna play a game, and we're not going to look at a single boob this entire game, and then he immediately looks at boobs.
Yeah, he's got like an eye tracking thing where you could see where his eyes are on the screen.
Yeah, where his eyes are.
So he's standing up. He's standing up, going, "We're not going to look at a single boob." And this video sits down, immediately looks at boob.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, "Fuck!" And
Yeah.
I've never heard of it. Sounds hilarious.
It's a wonderful clip.
How much before that did you miss? Because I was talking about like the device that he had just described sounds like the device that they used. There was this social experiment they did with eye tracking on a man.
Yeah, where they were like, "Yeah, if you're just at a party, you're probably staring at booba."
Yeah, they just have him. They're showing him a video of this party, and they're just like, do whatever it is you're gonna do. And the guy who's in the set doesn't realize that his eye tracking is being recorded, and so he's constantly looking at like hips, boobs, and butts.
Well, I mean, that's just being a man, you know.
Yeah, and then they did this with like 13 other men, and it was very, very similar results. And it was just like, okay. And
well, you're gonna
the response to this was like, nobody is surprised by knowing this. Yeah, the response was nobody is surprised by knowing this.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Now we have scientific evidence of monkey.
Monkey. Neuron activate.
Yeah, neuron activation.
Oh, yeah, and then
I'm gonna drop
1980.
off the call for a second.
Okay, 1980, 3D glasses. Yeah, not much to say about that. It's 3D glasses. 1982, Sanding and Defonte, whoever those are, create a device called the Sire gloves, which were wired gloves that basically they tracked your hand movement with light emitters and photocells. I do have a picture of that one. Where are we at here?
Standing and Defonte, did you say?
Yeah.
How do you spell that? Because when I look that up, I get Defonte's Sandwich Shop in Brooklyn, New York.
There's a picture of the gloves. It is spelled. Sanding is like sand with ing at the end, and then Defonte is Defanti.
Defanti. Okay.
And I'm still putting these pictures in the chat so you can see them. But
They're a photographing company. It looks like.
that makes sense given what the gloves are made out of.
Mm.
Given the whole light emitter and photocell thing. 1985, Jaron Lanier, or Jaron Lanier, or however you want to pronounce it.
Aaron.
It's spelled Garon, or sorry,
J-Ron.
it's spelled
My
J.
name is
It's spelled
Jaron.
Jaron.
My name is Jerome. Excuse me. That fucking
Jaron
idiot.
Lanier and Thomas Zimmerman found VPL Research Inc., which develops and sells a line of VR products, including the Data Glove, the iPhone, spelled EYE phone,
Oh yeah.
and the Audiosphere. Yeah.
You couldn't spell I.
What are you talking about?
I'm wondering if you're gonna talk about
Dave, did you just tell me that I didn't spell I?
No. I'm thinking about a bit from YouTube.
Oh, you think about that clip? Okay. I was gonna
Yeah,
say like
the YouTube clip where he's like, EYE is you, and
it's
the other
like-
guy's like, holy fucking shit, are you serious?
yeah, there's a couple of those. It's like EYE. Yes.
No, that one is like, what does YES spell? Yes.
Oh
What
yeah.
does EYES spell?
Yes. yeah. Mm-hmm. There's some good old.
At the end,
YouTube
it spells eyes.
content.
But it spends like 5 fucking minutes on that.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, based on looking at these periphery things, is the Nintendo Power Glove in this list?
It might be.
Because I think I'm looking at this. This does remind me a lot of like the Ready Player One idea, where just putting on the headset didn't give you full immersion. Like your body couldn't feel what was happening in the virtual world, and you had to buy like an actual suit that was designed to mimic what was happening around him and make him physically feel it in the real world on his body.
Yeah, something like that. Next point on my timeline is 1986. It's our old friend Furness. He's back,
Oh,
and this
he's
time
back.
he's developing another flight simulator. This one
Oh.
is called the Super Cockpit.
The Super Cockpit.
I
It's-
remember the Super Cockpit.
It featured computer generated 3D maps and infrared radar, and the pilot could see and hear in
compared to
real
today's
time.
technology, it's garbage.
Yeah.
It was amazing back then, though. Everyone thought it was the best.
Well, back then it probably was.
I mean, to be fair, I remember learning about it in the late '90s, because I obviously wasn't alive in the '80s when they made it. But
So technically, you don't remember
Here's
the thing. You remember being told about it.
here's
no, I remember being in a place that utilized it.
Oh.
Weird. That's like an 80s thing. But late 80s though. Here's probably one of my favorite parts of this timeline. 1 year later, 1987, British Aerospace creates an off-brand super cockpit with speech recognition.
Hmm.
Also the same year, Jaron Lanier coins the term virtual reality. And a company called Dimension International creates a software for developing 3D environments on PC. 1989. Guess who steps up into the VR ring? It's NASA.
Of course,
I had a feeling it
because
was gonna be
obviously-
something like that.
obviously, if you could train a pilot to fly an airplane,
You can train an
Without the risk.
astronaut.
You could play you could train an astronaut to do space things without all the money spent to send them to space or risking all of
Exactly.
that really
Yeah, I was gonna say,
expensive
not to
equipment.
mention, all the space equipment is much more expensive. I'm back now, by the way.
So NASA, with
Has
the help
Microsoft
of
entered the chat yet?
not yet, NASA, along with the help of a at the time brand new company called Crystal River Engineering, creates a project called Project View, which I have pictures of here. Let me throw these in the chat.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where some of us are old enough to probably remember Project View.
Project View. Here. Have a look at these babies. Yeah, so they created Project View, which was a virtual environment in which they could train astronauts to fly a spaceship basically without risk to the astronauts or the $1 million equipment.
You know what I think is interesting
What's that?
about those gloves, those VR gloves? That's really similar to something that exists now, the haptic feedback gloves.
Uh-huh.
That's very interesting to me.
Yeah,
there's
see,
such a
fun fact
early
about
step towards that.
these gloves here. Uh a certain Japanese video game development company took these and made a power glove.
It rhymes with Nintendo.
It was Nintendo. Nintendo did it. The other
No, I
thing
never would have figured that out.
the other thing
That was such a hard
No,
riddle.
just it was so difficult to puzzle. Like, oh man, it was such like a tertiary thing. There was no advertisements for it or anything.
you had to go through some
Obviously, like,
ARG bullshit
yeah,
just to
find it
yeah.
just to figure out it existed. It's just they just made the one prototype. It was too powerful, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just remember that it was used by the legendary hacker Man.
Hacker Man.
My God, I forgot about that.
Hacker Man.
Fucking hacker man.
Oh no. Hacker Man. Yeah, the other big thing to come out of Project View was the very first use of 3D binaural audio, which has become a big thing these days. But that was the first time they used it, or that was when it was developed, was for Project View. And then we jump forward to 1991. Oh yeah, we in the 90s, baby.
At this point, Leonis exists.
Yeah, I was sucking my thumb.
We have now reached the point where members of the chat have
members of the tutorial now exists.
Yeah, members of the tutorial have entered the chat.
A single member.
Yep.
The oldest member of the TK crew. I mean,
he's dead.
Chunky, he's dead.
He's dead.
Oh, he dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So 1991. Two big developments in the year of 1991. First, Antonio Medina is a NASA scientist that creates a VR system. Basically, creates a VR system to drive the Mars rover. He even takes into account the god-awful amount of lag, or as they call it, signal delays. And that system is called computer simulated teleoperation. It's what they use to drive the Mars rover.
The thing is, if you're operating at that distance, there's gonna be lag. Period.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
Oh yeah, because you're bouncing signals off the fucking sun.
Because you're now operating at distances where light actually needs to take like a noticeable amount of time.
Yeah.
To get from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm. The other big thing for VR that happens this year is that a group pops up called Virtuality, and they release a VR arcade game called Virtuality. Wow, that's creative. It is basically a big old pod that you'd sit in, and you put on a headset and you play with other people. I've got pictures of it here. Let's see.
Virtuality.
Let me pop these pictures in the chat for y'all so you can see Virtuality. Have a look at this. This is early 90s tech.
Whoa, dude.
Oh
Bumper
man,
cars.
I do recall seeing those around
Oh, man.
places.
Bumper
I love
cars.
how in the second picture you could tell it's 90s because there's unnecessary fog machines present.
Yeah.
They're
This was
just there.
I remember seeing this
They're
on
just
TV
there
at
for
some
no
point.
reason. Like, why fog machines? Why the
you
fuck
gotta
fog-
understand. You gotta understand. The '90s were like the precursor to the X makes it sound cool age
No,
days.
It's not that was the precursor. That's just the 90s.
No, that was the early 2000s. The X
that
makes it sound cool.
was the early 2000s. X makes it sound cool. Yeah, 90s.
No,
oh
the
my
90s
god.
is like the realm of when Sonic was actually considered cool by everybody, and like he was like, "That's no good," and like Mr. Attitude
Jelly
Man,
Dog.
and
Yeah.
everything was all about fucking butt rock and attitude.
Yeah,
in
the
the
90s was a weird
rock.
time. The 90s
The
was truly a
fuck is it?
strange.
It's
Butt rock.
weird to talk about it this way because I feel like I'm talking about the 90s the way my dad would talk about the 80s and the 70s.
Yeah, because it's like there's people who exist now who are old enough to participate in this conversation that were not around in the 90s. I
Yeah.
believe one of them is on the call.
Yeah, in
Only
fact,
one
he
of us
is.
that wasn't around in the 90s is me.
Yeah, he wasn't born until the 2000s.
I was born right before 9/11.
Oh no. Yeah, so virtuality. Oh boy. 1993. Guess who puts their hat in the VR ring in 1993?
Microsoft.
93?
It-
93 is when Clinton became president. Does that have anything to do with it? I bet it's Microsoft.
No, Dave, that has nothing to do with it.
Also, I don't
It's-
think 93 is when Clinton became president.
It's also not Microsoft, it's Sega.
That actually makes more sense.
Sega, of
Yeah.
course. That makes way more sense because Sonic.
Sega announces their work on a VR headset that would be like a wraparound headset with stereo sound and head tracking and LCD screens, which sounds pretty mad decent, yo.
Yeah,
LCD screens that don't sound
compared to
too
everything
decent
else we've
compared
had
to
on
what
this
it was.
little
Yeah.
technological advancement.
Yeah, we're starting to get into modern technology.
Yeah, but also because of technical issues building the damn thing, the project got canned. And it never saw the light of day, which is a shame because it actually sounds pretty dope. I have a picture here of basically of what they said their concept of VR headset looked like. And that kind of looks pretty cool, though.
Is that the Sega headset?
Yeah, that would have been the Sega headset, yes.
You know, if they actually did it.
If they actually did
They
it.
ever actually made it, yeah.
Which, that looks a lot like modern day VR headsets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's pretty
actually,
cool.
that do be looking like. Imagine playing fucking Area 51 on that.
Right?
my God.
That'd be so cool.
Goes the sound of the zombie cyborg alien when you shoot him.
Yeah, 1994,
Low.
Sega releases a pseudo VR arcade machine called the Vr1, which is like a motion simulation machine. Let me pull up the picture here. You can see what I'm talking about. Sega Vr1.
Oh.
Here we go. The Sega
Supposed to be a
Vr1.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you
I do
remember
not
these
recall
things.
seeing this.
I
don't really recall this.
It functioned.
That,
Yeah, it was
that
sort of
like a roller coaster.
It was sort of like a virtual roller coaster setup kind of thing where you sit in like a roller coaster seat, as you can see here, and you put on a headset and the seats kind of move around.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I've ridden one of those.
Yeah, Zeta knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
Zeta and I definitely have because they had like the Jurassic World one, like when we were
Yeah.
kids,
Oh, okay, I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
recall
yeah.
that.
and it would like move
Yeah, they
around
had
and
one of
shit,
those-
and the
they had
dinosaurs
at
walked.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
also had one of those at the Phoenix Zoo, and it was.
That's what I'm talking about. That's the one I rode.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's basically this is what that was.
Yeah.
It just kind of moves with whatever's going on the headset. Although I think in that one we didn't have a headset, we just had a big old screen in front of us. But same difference.
That one was stereo sound. They had a
Yes, they
sound
had
system
surround
that
sound.
was in.
Yeah, because we were like in a
You were
box. We
basically
weren't
in
open
a
air.
black box. Yeah, you were in a black box, and then in the black box on the base of the floor was that, and they had people in those, and there was two of them. And then they had a surround sound system and a big screen that was one of the early curved screens.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of this ride was you were viewing the world through the eyes of this particular character, Dinosaur, and it was just like a what was their life like kind of a thing, and it was just like a neat little multimedia event. But it used a form of VR technology like that. It was just executed in a slightly larger manner because it took an entire black box to do.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are uninitiated and you're like, what the fuck is he talking about when he says a black box? That's a theater term that just means a small theatrical space.
Yes.
Called that because usually they all had black walls on the inside.
Yeah, usually it's painted
you
with
want
black
to
walls
keep
so that
the
the
concentration
set-
on the screen.
yeah, so that the inside the fourth wall universe sort of ends at the set, and you don't be like, hey, what's that thing in the background going on? It sort of throughout time has sort of helped with theatrical immersion a little bit. But it also helps with something like this because now you have a screen and there's nothing else in the room that's grabbing your attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very cool to ride in one of those. It was very fun.
Yeah. That is, I think, the earliest thing that I can think of that is my experience with VR. I can't think of anything that I did before that would be considered VR.
Next step on the timeline, we have Nintendo again with the Virtual Boy, which, man, oh man, we all know what a big, resounding success the Virtual Boy was.
Virtual Boy was, yeah.
It was so successful. It's such a popular thing. People love it so much. Nah, man, that shit was garbage. That shit was garbage. Because they were like, let's make this little stool thing. It wasn't easy to use. It was janky as fuck, and there was no colors besides black and red.
Yeah.
It wasn't great. It feels like they could have done more with it, but they didn't.
I mean, yeah, I guess they could have done more with it. I was just gonna say, like, we're still talking 90s. The virtual technology like that was not great compared to now.
Oh yeah. There's been huge leaps. 1997, Georgia Tech and Emory University create Virtual Vietnam, a virtual environment that is used in exposure therapy for PTSD patients. So
now you're starting to get.
Yeah, that's
that
where
was
we
in one of
talk
the
about
articles I had.
medical use of VR. Yeah. That's sort of
now-
where that
how
whole thing
that's-
started up.
One of the first medical applications of VR.
Mhm.
I just remember somebody in I want to say it was a Facebook comment thread a couple years ago before I left Facebook that was like, VR has done nothing for mankind. It's a colossal waste of time. Nobody should ever have invented it. And I'm like, do you have any idea how much of a fucking idiot you sound like?
The next leap forward is a decade later in 2007, where Google drops Street View on the public.
That's considered VR.
I would
VR.
personally
It's VR adjacent in the sense that the technology used in Street View forwarded to VR. Like it had some basis. It did stuff for VR history, for VR headsets. And stuff.
It's literally just the Alpine Colorado thing, but bigger.
Yeah, but bigger. Yeah.
Aspen.
Yeah, Aspen, Colorado. 2010, Google Street View gets a 3D upgrade, but more importantly, Palmer Luckey starts developing a VR headset that he calls the Oculus Rift.
Yep.
Hey.
Here we go. Up to 5 simultaneous Oculuses pending.
the 2012, the Kickstarter for the Rift raises $2.4 million.
Money.
2014, Facebook buys Oculus. And from here on, that's where basically where the VR explosion happens, where lots of companies jump on that shit. Like HP, Sony, HTC, Samsung, Valve, they all have their own VR headsets. Everybody's making VR games. Everybody's making VR
Huawei.
headsets. There's a bunch of those shitty ones you can buy on Amazon that you slide your cell phone into. It's all over the place. And
Those
it's,
shitty ones that you slide your cell phone into, I believe the first one of those. Well, maybe not the first one of those, but the one of those that was the most successful, I want to say, was the Vive.
Maybe.
I think the Vive, I don't know. I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth for that one. I don't know. But I thought the Vive
Well, I
was
mean,
just a
I
regular
could be
VR.
wrong, but I believe that one was the Vive. The only ones that I've used is an Oculus 2, PlayStation VR, and then another one that I never actually learned the name of, but it's a Japanese one.
I think the Vive is just a regular one, like you don't put your cell phone in it. Yeah, I'm just looking at it. It's just a regular one.
Is
Yeah.
that like a new version of the Vive, or was there an older version of that? Because that's HTC, right?
Yeah, that's HTC.
I was pretty sure that was the one that you put your phone in.
Mm-mm.
I don't know.
You're
No, he
thinking
discussed the
I'm
phone one
actually
earlier.
if you want to talk about the big phone one, that's actually going to be the Samsung one, which I forget the name of off the top of my head, but it was built
Well,
to
I'm
play
honestly
with the
surprised
Galaxy.
that you didn't say Apple.
I don't
I'm
think they
genuinely
have a
surprised.
VR. I don't think they have a VR headset. I could be completely wrong about that. I don't know.
They're too busy making more advanced phones that don't have audio jacks.
Yeah, but it's kind of looking like the next step forward in VR is going to be haptic gloves, which do exist but are expensive as fuck to get your hands on.
I think they're working on a haptic suit now as well.
Yeah.
That wouldn't
There's
surprise me.
also a kind of stand that you can buckle into, and it's got a curved floor, so you can move 3-dimensionally without leaving where you're.
I forget what that fucking thing is called, but yeah.
Yeah, and then there's stuff like Woodger where you can
So
put
like
the speakers
the
on
thing
your
is
chest
like
and
right
stuff.
now they're making a bunch of peripheries so you can stand in one spot with a headset on and move around in the virtual space without physically moving your body that much within your real physical space. And I did want to cover something though that I remember because I watched a video about it, and there's this guy who did an experiment where he spent 7 days entirely in virtual reality just to see what that felt like.
Virtual going to the bathroom.
And so he had to
Virtual
set up
eating
his virtual
food.
reality so that his house was so that like his physical space within the virtual reality always mimicked his house or what's around him enough that he wouldn't mess up. But he did that, and it was one thing, and he was explaining during that video like the concept of trying to create full dive and why it doesn't work the way why like anime nerds are like, why don't we just make this already? But then what's actually preventing that from being
There's a whole lot of neurological science that goes into it as well.
yeah, he was explaining like the idea of full dive, like how as far as we understand in engineering and science right now, how that would have to work is that you basically have to create another brain, a virtual brain within the device, because they'd have to basically the device would have to stop all of your brain's signals and send it to the virtual brain. So the virtual brain would have to not have signals for things like breathing and heart beating and anything that's necessary for your physical body to operate, because those signals need to not be interrupted by the headset. They need to be able to continue functioning your body correctly. But then that creates a sort of dull, not proper experience for the VR, and they have to find a stopgap or something that allows you to feel those things without changing what your brain's doing in real life. Basically, the idea is that it has to stop all conscious signals
Yeah,
and put them to the new brain.
Like take over function of your brain so that your
Yeah.
animal, what you would consider on a hospital bed to be vegetable, those functions are left alone, but the rest of your brain is essentially hijacked by this computer. So all of your inputs and all of your neurological receipt and output is given to the computer instead. So when your eyes are saying, I see the color red because these are the rods and cones that are activating, it's doing that because the computer is giving that input. When you say, I reach out and I pick the flower, you're doing that because the computer is being given that output.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we
has to
don't.
hijack your brain. We just do not have that
We
technology.
do not have the technology
No.
to do that.
Yeah,
No.
and the idea of doing that safely is a far-flung dream.
Way, yeah.
Right
Way
now,
out
yeah,
there.
because that concept of like hijacking your brain is part of a core problem of how do you prevent that from being hacked. Another again, I'm gonna mention media on this, but it brings up like a more ethical idea regarding virtual reality and how it can be used and how it can be exploited by people who don't care if they hurt anyone. Which was there was an anime called Excel World, and in that anime, everyone had like this virtual reality device plugged into their neck essentially, and they could surf the web with their eyes and whatnot. Like you couldn't see it if you were not the person wearing the device, but they'd have screens popping up that they could move through and everything with their eyes and stuff.
That's
And-
more AR than VR though.
Yes, but they also
Kinda.
used it to play VR games. So the problem with that particular one that they brought up was they had a bully in the school who would hack people's neurotransmitter gear or whatever. And he did really tame things like make you see the women or the men's restroom sign on the women's restroom and vice
Lol.
versa.
It's
You
just a
know,
prank, bro.
it's just a prank, bro.
It's just
But
a
here's the
prank,
thing.
bro.
He physically changed what your brain told you the world was.
Yeah.
That's a big problem. That's a huge problem because
Yeah,
you
and then
could
opens up this ethical thing of like, well, what happens if your thing is hijacked and you're in a situation where it's like someone has broken into my home and you're attempting to defend yourself, and now this person who's hijacked your brain just made you murder your dog.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Some shit like that. It's what you could do with that. Now, to be fair, that was a little bit more AR than VR, but the same concerns exist for like having a VR headset that hijacks your brain. Like, how far do we allow that to go before, people are hacking you and using those hacks to implant ideas or thoughts or remove memories so that
Modify memory or one way or the other. Fuck with shit that is
fuck
not
with your
ethically
brain,
fuckable.
yeah, in such a way that you could be manipulated into doing or not doing things you otherwise would or would not do
Or believe you are
to
or
the
aren't.
benefit of someone else.
Yeah.
And if that exists as something that can be done, the next step in that questioning is what's stopping the corporation that makes the headsets from doing it to everyone?
Mhm.
Yeah, because then you have like, let's say they have an advertiser, and they get a lot of money for advertisement. They can just put the idea in your head, hey, you should go buy these products, and it's no longer advertising. You're just being brainwashed to go buy this stuff.
Yeah. And I know that there's going to be lots of people who are gonna be like, oh, listen to these boomers and their boomer ideas. But
Well,
I
But
think
a,
that's
it's
what
but,
a
but a
legitimate
code of
concern.
ethics for that,
Yeah.
if that sort of technology is to exist, a code of ethics for that does need to be created and
Yes,
But it would
and I
maintained.
have
think
to be
it's tell that
something that is dramatically more enforced
Yeah,
than
there
even
has
other
to
laws
be
today, because it's like the sanctity of your own personhood.
there
Like
has to
they're
be
taking your
fail
person
safes
away.
and ways to track if somebody accesses your brain data and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It would
'Cause,
have
like,
to
people
be
are
as
gonna do it, but
relentlessly persecuted as medical data.
Mhm.
yeah, that would probably be the easiest way to do it. I think is to say that's considered medical and you're not allowed to have it. So like for example, a corporation would have to prove that they're not recording that data.
Yeah,
Which I think would be a tough fight to legally win because corporations already do so much data recording for what, like, you browse the web, you type something into YouTube, Google has that data, and now stuff similar to that starts showing up. And it's
Google
become
knows you searched for "Gimme my egg."
yeah. Um, it
Bruh.
sure does, buddy, and it
Why we
sure
gotta
knows
come
that
back to
I
that?
clicked on it in Discord and saw the video. And it's getting to a point now where some of that technology is even getting to the point where if you react negatively, I don't think they could do it this way yet, but they're starting to get to a point where they can see like you viewed something and then you either left an incredibly negative comment or you reacted by negatively talking about it to your friends, they'll actually remove. They actually want to start removing those and getting even deeper into what you want to see and what you don't want to see. And I'm like, I understand why that's useful, but also I don't want to be left out of important things just because they're not something I would prefer to be the case.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a whole nother ethical storm, and it's like
Yeah.
that technology to advance, we kind of got to figure some social shit out first.
Yeah, because like I said, I feel like the argument for whether or not a corporation could record your virtual reality data has a lot of ground to stand on in court right now, at least in the United States.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
so
argue on behalf of a company, I would argue at least they should have access to be like, if I'm in my virtual reality for 32 hours and I have not eaten anything and I have not drank anything, I have not gone to the bathroom, etc. At some point, that headset has to be like, hey, get the fuck out, go take care of yourself.
Yeah, really.
yeah,
you got
I
shit
agree
to
with
do.
that as well.
I think 32 hours is too much. You've gone too far at that point. I think
Yeah.
I think
You live in the matrix.
I think realistically at a maximum 6 hours, at a reasonable minimum like an hour and a half.
See, so that's interesting because you brought up because you basically brought up the opposite of my thing is like my ethical extreme, for lack of a better term, was like they can't record any data from the device, or if they do record the data, it has to basically be like put in a lump data thing, and they can't see any specific.
I'm not
data.
trying to downplay that because there was a huge
But
scandal with like Facebook when they put out the Oculus 2. They were like, yeah, by the way, the cameras on the front of the headset are going to record your environment, and that
Yeah.
data, Facebook just has that data.
And then what's the word I'm looking for? I was just say, but your term on the other side was like, how much should they be allowed to like, or at least the device should be allowed to automatically be able to record some amount of data and then use that data to go, this is starting to get to a point where it's unsafe for you to continue, so I'm going to save your game progress and shut down so that you get out of the virtual reality and go take care of your body.
There are actually some games that do that now where they're like, you've been doing this for an extended amount of time. Or, for instance, actually, this is an even better one. I was a Lyft driver for a while. And there's a time period where I went 17 hours driving. The intention was, so that was the time I'd blocked out. When I got to 12 hours, it popped up and it says, looks like you've been driving for a long time. You should take a break.
Well, yeah, and that same concept, because like you even got, you think about that, like if you go back to like the 90s and the early 2000s, a lot of games had that in them as well, where and to be fair, they wouldn't actually kick you out of the game because it's not that dangerous.
No, they
Most
just
people,
give you a
there's an
pop-up
assumption
that's like you've been playing for
Yeah,
this much time.
there's sort of an assumption that if you put that information in front of someone, they're like, oh shit, yeah, I should probably go do things.
That's the other thing is the way that the laws currently stand. That's about all they would be able to do is for an internal clock to be like, hey, you've been playing this for 8 hours. You should probably go take a bathroom break, stretch your legs, get something to eat. But they can't actually
hydrate or dehydrate.
Hit a switch and say you can't play this anymore because then it's like, well, I bought it. It's mine.
Yeah.
You can't deny access to it.
Kind of like all
And
those
then the
people
question-
whose
The question
Quest
becomes
2 headsets got bricked because they refused to log into a Facebook account.
See, here's a weird. So, because then my question becomes like,
If you're gonna
at
buy
what point
an
is it
Oculus,
more
you have to already
ethical?
understand that it's owned by Facebook. You're gonna have to have a Facebook account. The same way to play PlayStation Online, you have to have a PlayStation account. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of dumbass bought an Oculus and then was like, "I'm not gonna use a Facebook account"?
You'd be surprised.
I don't know.
Also, several
Some dumbasses.
Fuck
A
Many
lot of
of
people didn't
them-
understand. Also, by the way, I was today years old when I found out Oculus was owned by Facebook. I didn't know that. So
I didn't know that Oculus was at some point not a Facebook project. I thought it was always owned by Facebook.
No,
That's
in
what
fact, it used to be owned by John Carmack of Doom fame.
I
yeah,
know
his
Uh,
head was on a stick.
in two
no,
games.
that's John Romero.
Oh, you're right.
Well, no, Carmack's head on a stick is in Doom 2 and Doom 3.
No, yeah, that's true. Romero's
But,
head on
Doom
stick is in
1
the first one.
Doom 1 and 2 is Romero. Doom 2 and 3 is Carmack.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Carmack and Lucky did. They started up Oculus, and then Facebook bought it later.
And then, like you were talking about earlier with the energy thing, a major corporation swooped in,
Yep.
bought it up, and
Yep.
once it became something that's exploitable for keeping the rich and powerful, it was now everywhere.
And I wanted to touch on something really quickly before we dive into talking about a lot of VR games, which was what I consider an honorable mention. Beachhead and
Yeah.
their fun,
Um,
their fun little VR.
Before we go too far into that, I was wondering what Ringo's take on all this ethical conversation about VR might be, because he is a lot younger than us, like by at least a full decade or more.
I feel like definitely there should be some level of like the people responsible for managing all that type of data should be held accountable for what they do with it, and that should be public information. But at the same time, I feel like you shouldn't be putting they shouldn't put like a kill switch or like a hey, we have to shut this off now because you've been using it too long. But that's more because I feel like people should just have the common sense to not be on there for fucking 32 hours.
You'd be
Well,
surprised how not common sense is.
I know,
I
but
also agree, which is why I say the way that the law stands, and I think this is a good way to work because it accepts liberty, but it also accepts personal responsibility. Is the pop up where it just goes, "Hey, you've been doing this for a while. You should take a break," but you can just say, "Okay, got it," and then not do that.
right. But where would you draw the line?
That's the thing is the way that the technology currently sits with stuff like that. The line has to be drawn by the user. At no point does the game or app say, "Hey, you've been doing this too long. We're cutting you off," because for most of these things, it's something that was purchased, and because of the way the laws work, at least here in the United States, because it was purchased, you have the right to access it.
Here's
And
the thing though, like if if you leave it up to the user, there's so many people who would just turn that off completely and not use it as a feature.
well, no, that would be like, for instance, in the Lyft app, you can't tell it to say, "Hey, don't tell me when to take a break." It'll pop up every so often and say, "You've been driving for a long time. You should take a break." But I think with Lyft, it actually has, because of like safety stuff. It's like you physically cannot be driving this long without it being a problem.
There are rules about that because it falls under the same rule set for truck drivers, that if you're doing a job where you drive, there is a hard limit on how many hours you are allowed to work before from the law's perspective, you are no longer safe to operate heavy machinery, and if you continue to do so, the police have the right to stop you and tow your
Yeah,
vehicle.
you are now a danger to yourself and others.
Hmm.
Right.
And so I would ask,
or
like,
doesn't
how do
make
you? Because the
others
other
safe.
ethical thing that I wanted Ringo's opinion on was the whole idea of like getting your brain hacked and kind of because
I don't
I
fuck
feel
with anything that like physically alters or messes with or goes into my brain. I don't fuck with that idea at
interesting.
all.
Okay,
Like
I was wondering
weed.
if you might have a different viewpoint on it,
No, I
just
mean
because like
like
I
I
feel
don't
like
want to have an implant or any type of like plug in to the device
He does
Yeah.
not want to
straight
have
from your
some
brain.
sort of augmented
I don't
artificial.
want my nervous system to have anything to do with anything that isn't a biological part of my body.
so. In other words, you would be
Interesting.
completely not okay with full dive then.
No.
Not as the way that we proposed it.
I thought that would be a different opinion, just because I feel very much that my apprehension towards something like a full dive technology is also, at least socially, considered a very like, well, you're 30 plus, of course you'd feel that way about
Well,
it. It's a very
I
old way to think about it.
I feel
No,
that way
I think there's a
because
mechanic in the human brain that's like, hey, there's some things that probably should be left
yeah,
alone.
I
Here,
feel that way mostly because I don't like foreign objects in my body unless it's food.
Interesting statement.
So like I don't even like the idea of Neuralink.
What's Neuralink?
the Elon Musk thing where he puts a chip in your brain.
Oh
for
yeah,
actual
no, I'm
thinking.
I'm not down for that either.
I'm not
Mm.
down for that.
I mean, the
That's
idea
actually
to me of go ahead.
Neural may also lead to virtual reality technology as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm not
yeah.
putting a fucking computer component in my brain. It's not
Yeah,
happening.
On the
that's what
other
I was gonna
hand,
say. Like,
On the other hand, though, for me, it's like, hey, if you want to download my entire consciousness into a robot body that'll live forever, sure.
I'm content with being flesh and nothing more.
Yeah, see, here's the thing.
here's
I don't want Zeta Bot 9000 to come to my house and terminate me and take my place.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not
We're
so
getting
scared.
into synth territory.
that's a whole
I'm-
interesting point, huh? It's like if your consciousness is transferred into another thing, are you really, or is
What
there just now
began as a
two of you?
conflict.
So the other thing that I think about when I'm thinking about that is like, I don't think it matters. In the vein that if I upload my consciousness, I don't think I'm uploading the consciousness that exists within my brain. Because I think as a biological thing that is not so easily removed. It can be copied and uploaded into another thing, but I'm still gonna be me, and I'm still gonna like walk around, live my life and die. So whether or not my consciousness is uploaded into something else, I suppose it could be useful for keeping my will alive later. But at some point, that consciousness, because it's not me anymore, it's split off from me and will have different experiences than I will going forward. It's not gonna stay having the same will that I have for the rest of existence.
There's
So
also the question of once you put a human mind into a body that or into something that isn't a human body anymore, what's to stop it from like thinking itself to death? You know what
do
I
you
mean?
think yourself to death?
Well, that's not so much what I mean, but like, okay, what's to stop it from going mad, completely mad?
I
mean,
imagine
that's
you'd have to build in some guardrails into the technology.
Because if it gets to a point where it's such an advanced technology that it is nigh indistinguishable from a real human personality, there has to be some kind, or if it is literally they find a way to upload your actual consciousness into a machine, there
if
has to
they
be
really need to
something
do
to
that would be to somehow like the synapses in your brain to be kind of going back to Tron, compressed into data, moved into this virtual computerized space, and then recreated there so that they no longer exist in the original sense. That's the only
Well,
way for
the
that to be possible.
pro-
Otherwise,
Then
it's
here
always
comes the question: do I die then,
well,
and
then
that consciousness
um,
continues?
that becomes a conversation that is way above all of our pay grade.
Yeah, really.
So to be fair, yeah, I didn't want to dive too deep into the theoretical concepts of it, but yeah, because I mean that's just the way I view it. Is like I generally don't want
It's okay,
technology
Dave.
input into my brain.
Everything can be solved with quantum mechanics. It's fine.
Yeah, quantum is a word for science fiction. Hasn't figured out what this is yet, so we're just gonna say quantum.
We're gonna say quantum.
No, I mean there is an actual definition for quantum mechanics. And
Yes, but in media, that's what it means.
It
Mhm.
doesn't mean shit in media because they don't know what the fuck it means. They assume you don't either.
You're just like, this is a cool word. Let's throw this in there.
Quantum Ant-Man.
The quantum
Nuka-Cola
realm.
Quantum. The quantum realm. Do you want to know that
All right,
originally?
I'm going to take a quick piss break, and Beard can talk about Beachhead or whatever.
He going on a piss break.
I am going on a piss break. I'll be right back.
I wanted to talk about Beachhead because when I was writing the script for this episode, I thought I never saw Beachhead brought up, and I thought about it because I was like, Beachhead was like that VR arcade machine that we had over at Castles and Coasters. That was really cool.
Yep.
But what I ended up doing, right, was going to the website for Beachhead, and oh my god, is it a gem. I would like to read to you actual quotes off of the Beachhead website. Actual for real quotes off of the Beachhead website. This is amazing. Okay, so the Beachhead brand legacy. Beachhead 2000 changed the paradigm of PC gaming by introducing a fast-paced, adrenaline-pumping arcade-style game that was addictive and easy to play. At the time, large and complex...
You can just read it.
What's that?
You could just read it normally.
Just read it.
But that's boring. I like doing voices.
Okay, just do whatever you want. I don't even care, really.
At the time, large and complex role-playing games reigned supreme, and an arcade-like game that required under 10 megabytes of memory and no user manual was considered a sin in the established gaming world.
Under 10 megabytes.
You're not wrong, though.
Under 10
Just-
megabytes.
Just-
Fine, I'll turn my fucking camera on.
RPG.
Under 10 megabytes.
Why is my
it's just
room
too
yellow
funny.
today?
It's too funny.
Under 10 megabytes.
The real pressing question. I love how they use words like pressing in here. The real pressing question was, where's the play button? Despite all the naysayers in the PC press, Beachhead 2000 spread like wildfire and became an overnight success. Beachhead 2000 went on to set new records and start new trends in a wide range of venues and platforms. Yeah, okay. That combined with, if you scroll down on their website a little, they have a little bit here that says pioneer in virtual reality, and that reads as follows: We're not new to the notion of VR gaming. In fact, the Beachhead Vortec Hood is the original arcade version and was the first of its kind in the VR gaming world. The Oculus Rift team can testify to having played the Beachhead arcade games at some point, which is like saying I one time stood in a room with George Clooney and my charisma rubbed off on him and now he's popular.
That's so accurate.
That's a good metaphor. Holy shit.
That's 100% what they're doing.
I just got a kick out of that. I was like, this is so stupid. Someone was paid to write this on here.
Oh, we surely we can use this to advertise to make people like, oh my god, right? Where was the inspiration for
Oh
Oculus,
my
right?
God.
So good.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to say about Beachhead. They're fucking up their own ass and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Goddamn. Talk about masturbatory. Holy shit.
They are so, I was like, yeah, Beachhead was pretty cool, and then I read this and I was like, that is the most arrogant shit I've heard all week.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Really very self-important.
Oh
So
yeah,
I-
oh very, very much.
They really.
Do you know who I am? I'm Beachhead. I'm the one who invented VR video games. These other people are like little upstarts that don't matter. I'm the real star.
Teacher, Rift copied off my homework.
Fucking seriously?
Oh, I thought that was real funny. Anyway, so VR
We all
games,
know
yeah.
We all
Mhm.
know the real star was Schism.
Schism? No, just
Mhm.
no.
That would be where it was totally like VR.
No, that was those old stop motion, not even stop motion. That was those old random insert a video in your game. Doctor,
Schism was
we
a
have
trip
to get
dog.
to whoa. Wait, hold on. I
Yeah.
can make it better. Doctor, quick, you have to solve the puzzle to
Yeah.
Which game was the one that was like, quick, put in CD number 12?
That-
before
that-
it's too late"?
that was Safecracker.
That was Safecracker. Okay, that was the same kind of shit, though, wasn't it?
Safecracker was more fun because, like,
Because it didn't
pretend.
It didn't take 10 years to solve the fucking.
Yeah,
second
also,
puzzle of
yeah,
the
that's
game.
true. It did take 10
Yeah.
years to solve the second
And,
fucking
and
puzzle.
also it had a damn sense of humor.
It did. Schism
Schism
did
was
not
very
have a
competitive.
sense of humor at all.
Schism was one of those games. Schism was ridiculous, but It was literally like you're walking around, and then they're like, "Doctor, doctor, quick!"
Yeah.
They would just appear and disappear on you like that.
Yeah, and it'd be like this big flash of light with a big whooshing sound.
Yeah. Oh, my favorite part about that, which by the way, there's videos that exist of us playing this game. My favorite part about that is how they're like, here, check out these scientists, and it's like, this guy looks like you picked him up off the streets of New York City.
Tossed him in a recording booth.
He's got like the spiky hair and the leather jacket.
You know who?
He's a scientist. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just found out from my friend what that game I was trying to describe earlier was called. Dread Halls, I think. Yeah, Dread Halls.
Red
it was called.
Halls. Yeah, I don't know
Dread
nothing
Halls.
about
It's a
that.
VR game.
That I believe is the Markiplier game with the
Is
should
it?
I press B to blow?
Is it?
Cat.
It's a VR game.
It's a VR game where you run around. There's like little skeletons there's like skeletons, and like if you look at them, they're not doing anything. But then you'll like turn away, and then you turn back, and they're
Like right
Oh
there.
yeah. Well, would you look at that? This fucking. I look up Dread Halls, and this second video is
Markiplier.
from 7 years ago.
That's by the way, that's the video that No Thank You comes from. That's the bit where
Press
it's like
B to blow.
Oh, you bony. Do you want me
Yeah,
to press blow? That was like 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
it's
7
been a
7
minute.
years.
It's been a minute, but yeah,
But-
there's bajillion memes born out of Markiplier's playthrough of that.
But
So-
yeah,
Just a bit-
that game
Border.
and
It's a
that game
thing.
and Vader Immortal and VR Chat. Those are the only games I've played. Oh, and Beat Saber.
I've got
Those are
like
the only games
Beat
I've played.
Saber, and I've played all 3 episodes of Vader Immortal, and I've got
I've only
I was
played-
gonna say I have exactly 5 minutes of VR gaming experience, playing a single Beat Saber song twice.
I also have Waltz of the Wizards. That's a
I
good
played
one.
the first episode of Vader Immortal, and that's it.
I have a game I downloaded on PlayStation called Farpoint, and I really want to play it, but you have to have VR. And Beef just reacted to me talking about Farpoint, but like there was no audio.
Well, I was actually talking about how I've played a lot more VR. I said I played the first episode of Vader Immortal, and that's it. And then I corrected myself, saying as far as Vader Immortal goes, I've played a lot more VR than that. I actually have not played Farpoint. I didn't realize that was VR. I might play that today.
There is a lot of like, I've seen a lot of like things like I Expect You to Die, where it's like escape this room or whatever. Games like that seem pretty cool, and I'd like to play them.
Dude, I like the idea of VR escape rooms. Like that sounds
Dave,
genuinely fun.
Dave,
So much
I
more
want to have
VR,
this
dude.
conversation with you, Dave. Do you know Return of the Obra Dinn?
No.
Oh my god, go look it up. That game would be fucking amazing in VR. It's not in VR.
What is it called?
Return of the Obra Dinn. It's literally like you're exploring an abandoned boat. It's like walking up on the Mary Celeste, but you have a magical device that shows
is
you
that the
like
one where you go back in time and you solve the mystery of who.
yeah, you like
killed
walk
the
up
guy.
to a body and you
Or
like
how
you
all these
use your
guys
little
died.
magic device and it shows you a clip of the past that shows you what happened and you can like walk around and see all the shit. That game would be so fucking cool in VR.
It is the game where you
Memento
beat- where there's,
Mortem.
like,
Yeah,
there's
that's
a
the name
bunch
of your magical
people that,
device.
there's a bunch of people on a boat that died, and you have to piece together what the fuck happened to them, right?
Because you work for
So
the
it's
insurance
like
company.
coming up on the movie Ghost Ship after the events of the movie Ghost
After
Ship.
the
and
events
trying
of
to
the movie
figure out-
Ghost Ship, because you work for the
I'm trying to
insurance
figure out
company,
Yeah.
and you got to figure out what happened so the insurance
What
company
happened.
can write a
See,
statement.
they had a thing like that in Tom Clancy's The Division too, because what I mean is like the original Division as well as the Division 2, but where you could like, but the way they did it was similar to like how Batman did it. Like you could find like an area and you'd sort of like see what was going on, and like you'd see things in the area and you'd inspect like 5 or 6 things, and then you'd have this device that like created a 3D reconstruction of what likely was what occurred here.
Yeah, it's something like that, but that's like the whole game. And I've seen people play this game, and I'm like, this is so cool. This would be a fucking great game for VR, but it's not in
I
VR
really do
as
agree
far
that
as
it
I
would be an
know.
amazing title. It would be an amazing VR title. It really would be.
I think puzzle games definitely would be something fun to experience in VR,
Yeah,
especially if
there's
you can.
one.
You could do puzzles differently. You could do like literally just a puzzle, like
In
a 3D
fact-
puzzle, but
in
it's
fact-
three-dimensional.
Oh, what was that one? It's a.
Because I'm
swear it's
thinking
a
about like
VR.
if you look at things like, for example, puzzles in action games and whatnot, similar to like the puzzles you might solve in like the old God of War games or something, where you're like moving blocks or figuring out where energy goes in a certain way, or like maybe the puzzles from Breath of the Wild or whatever. Doing something like that in VR, I think would be really fun because you could take the idea would be that you could reach out and grab these things in a somewhat more physical sense and move them around the 3D space.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
think. Superliminal. That's the name of the game I'm thinking of.
That sounds familiar. Why does that sound familiar?
That's like a whole that game plays with like perspectives and shit. So where like you solve puzzles by like it's like
Is that the
if
one where
you pick up a
move the
block
big thing and you move it over here, and now it's tiny.
and now it's small, but when you place it down, it's now a small object. Yeah, and that's how
it's
you
a
call
surreal puzzle video game released by Pillow Castle.
Yeah, you solve things in very interesting ways in that one. And I think that one's in VR. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
I believe it is.
But it not normally there's mods for it though. Darn. Cuz that would be another one that would be really fucking good in VR.
I probably I should look up some playthrough footage of Farpoint because it looked really cool. That's why I downloaded it. And then I was like, you can only play this if you have a VR headset. So like, all right, cool. How much is a VR headset? Nope, not paying for that right now.
Do you want to know what game
Yeah.
in VR that I downloaded and enjoyed more than I should?
Is it Gorilla Tag?
No.
No, he hates Gorilla Tag.
I've never once said that I hated Gorilla Tag. I don't know why you all make that assumption.
Because every time Ringo brings it up, you're like, can we talk about literally anything but Gorilla Tag?
That's because Ringo only talks to me about Gorilla Tag when it comes to VR and nothing else.
No, I talked about Vader Immortal.
Only knows Return to Monkey.
But it's
I
like
haven't actually played the game.
okay,
Yeah,
but like every
Gorilla
time
Tag.
I bring up VR, Ringo's first thing is, "Oh my god, Gorilla Tag."
Gorilla Tag. Gorilla Tag.
And
Gorilla Tag. Gorilla
It's not.
Tag.
It's not that
Gorilla
I.
Tag,
It's
Gorilla
not that I.
Tag.
It's not that I dislike Gorilla Tag. It's that I dislike Ringo reminding me of Gorilla Tag.
It's funny because I actually haven't even played Gorilla Tag.
Wow, you fucker.
Shut up about it.
It just looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, the one that I downloaded and enjoyed more than I should was VR fishing.
Oh, there's no excuse for not enjoying fishing.
Like that.
Oh, man.
Listen, make fun of me all you want, but that shit is chill as hell. You can literally like
No, I can
there's
imagine.
a
I can see
virtual
that.
there's a virtual window you can pull up and watch YouTube while you're just fishing. It's fucking
That
great.
reminds me of
That-
the Dave Bautista commercial called The Streamer.
That sounds like an incredibly chill experience.
It
that
it
sounds
is.
like
It's very much
The like
it's super chill.
we just having good vibes today stream
That
experience.
I really would love to stream that.
You're having good vibes today. You just
Like we're just
fishing
out
and
here
food.
doing some fishing, guys. There's also
Meanwhile, I have my YouTube that I want to watch up while I'm fishing.
well, if I'm
on my
streaming,
YouTube stream.
if I'm streaming, I'd probably just have my chat up. But
Yeah,
whatever.
probably.
there's also
Hopefully
one
we
called,
can. Hopefully we can catch the super secret golden bass today.
There's also one called The Room VR, which also I think looks very cool. But it's
The
another one of
Room,
these.
Is that an
No, it's
escape
not.
room?
Oh, hi,
Yes,
Mark.
it's an escape room. No, it's not Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, hi, Mark.
No, it's like it's like a esoteric mystery sort of thing.
Yeah, it's not Tommy Wiseau. Oh my god.
It looks very cool, and I'd love to play it.
I love how The Room is just, if I could tangent for a brief moment, is just like the universally this movie was absolute shit.
Was it not?
No, I just love
Yeah.
how like it was so bad that everyone universally hates it equally.
It was so bad that they made a movie to talk about how it was so bad.
Yeah.
Hollywood monetizing their failures.
The
Look at that.
Disaster Artist. Go watch that.
To be quite frank, I have every admiration for the kind of person who can make something like that and it fails miserably, and instead somebody can turn around and capitalize on that failure. Like if you can do that, that is a skill that not everybody has.
And
to turn someone else's failure into your success when you were not otherwise involved at all.
and might I add, got the approval of Mr. Huizo himself. He loved that
Yeah.
movie. He was like, "This movie's great" when they released The Disaster Artist.
Yeah, which in a sense turns your failure into your success.
Hmm.
Like the ability to do that is highly covetable. That's not something I will ever hate on, because like, well, yeah, a lot of results of that particular skill are not very well done, and they come across as really cheap. It doesn't matter if I think something was really shit and poor and awful. If it sold 60 million copies and the guy that made it is now fucking balling, he succeeded,
For sure.
because I guarantee his goal was to make money.
Well, with something that has that little heart in it, yeah, obviously.
Well, hi, Mark. Anyway,
Oh man.
anyone else got anything to say about VR games?
They're cool and everybody should play them.
Other than that, Beef apparently has a headset and still won't play with me. Beef, fuck you.
Because I guarantee you don't have the games that I have.
You say that like I don't also have VR chat.
Well, I don't have VR chat on my PSVR. That's
Ha!
the thing, as I don't have an Oculus.
I have the Oculus.
I don't anymore. I no longer possess an
You
Oculus.
know, the VR headset for PlayStation, the price on that has gone considerably down.
Yeah, because the
from before.
PS5 exists now.
Yeah, because the PS5. Oh my fucking god.
Oh, is there a PS5 VR headset?
Yeah, it's called the PSVR 2.
How
Okay, how much is? I don't have a
creative.
PS5, so
So I don't have a PSVR 2 because obviously,
I'm just curious how much it costs.
like a lot.
Probably, but see, the last time that I checked on that, it was like $300, and I'm like, I spent $300 on the console. Why do I need to spend another $300 on not even a console? And then now it's like less than half that, so I might pick it up.
Yeah.
It won't be until probably March or April, though.
Linda and I bought it as a Black Friday deal, and I think we ended up paying like $75 for it. So
Bruh, that is the way to do it.
Yeah.
you just gotta keep your eyes out for good deals.
Yeah, from
Well,
official
well,
sources,
well,
and not Uncle Jerry down the street who's like, I swear it still works perfectly.
Yeah.
There's no
Uncle
reason I don't
Jerry
leak stuff."
down the street. Oh boy. Hey son, I know you just walked up to this bus stop, but can I interest you in a VR headset? Fun fact, this has actually for real happened to me. IRL, this actually happened.
Wait, you
Some-
sitting at a bus
Serious?
stop. and
Someone tried to sell me a VR headset at a bus stop. Yes.
If I had to look for it, I'd have been like, I like your audacity. Buy it.
Does that?
I
does
was
that
like, I don't have
top-
money. I have to go to work to get money.
But here's the question: does that top
Can you imagine rolling into your
bus
security
stop
guard,
mimosas?
be like, what's that? Be like, this is a VR headset. Why did you bring a VR headset to work? I bought it on the way to work.
I
Why did
bought
you
it
buy
on the way.
to work? A homeless guy sold it to me at a bus stop.
Yeah.
But does that?
Yeah.
But does that top bus stop mimosas?
The bus stop mimosas. That was a pretty
there's
interesting
Missy.
cat. Yeah, that was pretty interesting. And I don't know what the fuck was up with those guys.
Bus
Hold
stop.
on.
Hey man,
This
Bus
is
stop
something I heard
mimosas.
yet. What is
Oh
the
yeah,
story
no,
about?
yes. So I went.
Bus stop mimosas.
I stopped at the bus stop. Like, is the second bus stop is the one that takes me down Thunderbird, and
Also, can I say briefly that if you were on your way to work, you were in uniform, which in turn means this dude had the audacity to walk up to a fucking security guard and ask if he would want to buy a headset.
yeah. But this was on my way home from work, and I wasn't wearing my uniform at this time. But like, we pull up to the bus stop, and there's these two dudes sitting there, and they've got all these bottles of alcohol, and they're like, "We're making $1 mimosas at the bus stop." I'm like, "What the fuck?" And they're just
Do you have a food vendor's card? And if they said yes, then I'm like, ballin', let's buy one. And if they said no, I'd have been like, I'm not sure about this then.
I just was like, "No, I don't want one."
$1
Yeah, it was-
mimosa? I'd probably just look at them for a minute and be like, good, thanks.
Yeah, because it's also like, it's one thing if they have a bunch of bottles, but there's like shit leaking all over the ground too, and I don't know what it is. And there's like puddles under the bus stop, and I'm like, this is kind of weird, bro.
It's kind of scuffed, man.
Yeah,
What a fucking
Pretty
mimosa,
sketchy.
bro.
yeah.
To quote,
Seems
Hit
kinda
Game
Hey,
Golden.
Can I ask a question? How much acid did you put in the mimosas?
You know, speaking of acid, I
I
was
was
thinking a
dying to
little
have
while ago when we were talking
Speaking
about
of acid, I was thinking about acid.
no. When we were talking about fucking cybernetic implants and shit, I was thinking about I would love to drop acid and just sit down and have a conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson about cybernetic implants.
Why is dropping acid in that equation?
Yeah,
Because I wouldn't be able to
exactly.
understand a fucking word that he told me unless I did.
I think that would make it worse.
Yeah,
No, it
agreed.
wouldn't.
It's not good for your cognitive abilities, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like weed would be the thing to use in that scenario
No,
if you're
because
gonna
I'll
use a
forget
drug.
everything. I'll forget everything if I just get
Yeah,
high.
but
Just-
just have it recorded.
Just, yeah, record it. Like that way the information is still there.
Then you can watch it
Yeah.
back later and be like,
I
I
was
don't
gonna
remember
go to
saying
work.
that.
Then I got high.
But
You know
see,
what? We've
I-
had some people come into work while they were high.
Yeah, I don't doubt
I
it.
remember.
Dude, the worker shortage is so
In-
bad right now.
It
I
is.
remember in more vivid detail
You
the
wouldn't want
times
to
that
do
I've
your
dropped
job.
acid than
Glamorous
all the
jobs
times
and
that I've been
everything.
high on weed. So
Nobody like wants to be a plumber.
I feel like we've really gone beyond the VR.
We
So-
suddenly like aren't talking about VR anymore.
And we're like
Because
2
we started
hours
talking
and
about like
we're like 2 hours and
outside.
20 minutes in, so I think it's time to end the episode.
I wonder what it would be like to drop acid and then play Beat Saber.
Okay, everybody
Stop
say
with the junk
goodbye
comment.
now.
Bye now.
Okay. Well,
Good
Bye,
Lord, what a way to
bye.
end the episode.
Imagine these
Christ.
things would be
We
just like
talked about VR today, and also we're gonna end on let's drop some acid, bro.
Goodbye,
Stop that.
everybody. If you learned something, let us know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you don't miss when we upload an episode. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Something's burning in my house.
Go figure that shit out, Dave.